Patch 10.0 is live and relics are in the game. However, you won't be able to collect the forged materials to create your relics until the Chimera boss opens tomorrow. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at the 22 relics that are currently in the game. We'll talk about the new buffs that they are bringing as well. And then we will examine each and every one of these relics to figure out which ones you should be targeting for which kinds of champions on your roster. I am Colred. This is Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. Let's get started. Just a quick question for you. I recently started playing King Arthur Legends Rise because I got a sponsorship to make some videos this month. However, I am really enjoying the gameplay. So my question to you is, would you like to see King Arthur content here on this channel? It would be similar content to what I make for Raid, Dungeon Guides, Champion Reviews, and a lot of free-to-play strategies. And if you are interested in that, or if you're not, please let me know in the comments below. And if you are interested in trying out King Arthur, you can click on my download link in the description of this video. We also have a King Arthur clan that is building currently, so if you want details for that, come to our Discord. Thanks so much. Now let's get back to your video. As you can see, the clan boss banner has been updated to include the Chimera, who happens to be sitting here in the Great Void waiting for his debut, which should come tomorrow. Now, in addition to just the excitement of having a new clan boss and new content to battle, we also have this relic system that is being introduced, and you need material drops from the Chimera in order to forge relics. Now, when you logged in today, if you haven't logged in, you'll see this soon. You get a free starter relic here. An Unholy Grail is the one I got. I don't know if we all get the same one. I've equipped it here on Mesmel, because why not? And there's a little bit of a tutorial you can watch that takes you through how to level up and promote your relics, some other info about it. Now, the system looks pretty robust. I don't want to cover the whole system today. I think we're going to need several videos to get through all of this stuff. But what I do want to focus on is specifically in the Forge here. If you come to the Relic Crafting tab, you look at the Relic Index down in the bottom right, and we have a list of all of the relics that are currently in the game. There are 22 of them. They are broken into two groups, Standard Group and Chimera Group. And I guess when you forge, there's a 50-50 chance of which group your relic will come from. So Raid loves its RNG. Now, as you can see here, there are different rarities of relics. We start with rare and we work our way up. The rarity affects not just the stats and the benefits, but also the number of gemstone sockets that the relic has. So a rare relic has 1 socket, an epic has 2, a legendary has 3, and a mythical relic has 4 gemstone sockets. If you want more information on the gemstones, you can click on the gemstones menu here. I'm not going to cover these in today's video. There's a lot of them. They will need their own video. We'll go over that at a future date, but you can come here and check it out if you want. So what we will do is go over each of these 22 relics. I'm going to try to move quickly because there are a lot of them. I don't want it to be an hour-long video. But we're going to just kind of break down the benefit of these relics and what kinds of champions you might want to put them on. I'm not talking about optimal relics. For instance, this rare Rod of Blasphemy may be beneficial to some champions, but it's likely that one of the legendaries or mythics is better than this rare Rod of Blasphemy. So just because a champion can use a relic doesn't mean that's the best relic. Also, we're probably going to have to build our way up, right? Especially if you're a free-to-play player like I am, we're probably going to start with a lot of rare and epics and only acquire our legendaries and mythic relics very slowly. So I think it's good information to cover them all from the bottom to the top. Now, one of the things that you want to know here about the way this kind of graphic works is you click on the eye and it'll tell you what the bonuses are as you max out your relic. So here it says wearer receives 2% less damage if under any debuffs, but you can see that this increases over time. Now, I believe based on what I'm seeing that most of these are additive bonuses, not multiplicative bonuses. So in this particular case, you start with 2%, and then you can add an additional 6% for an 8% damage mitigation when it's maxed out. In addition, we do want to look at the stats that we're gaining because I think those are going to impact the kinds of champions that we're putting these relics on. But HP, attack, and accuracy, that looks like a debuffer, right? It looks like somebody who is a support champion who does damage with attack, but we don't really care about the attack. The accuracy and the HP are to help that champion do their job, and then same with the damage mitigation. So think about somebody like a Deacon Armstrong could use this. You could also go in sort of a speed direction with somebody like Deacon Armstrong, but this gives you some flexibility if you want to get some more survivability, some more accuracy for those kinds of debuff champions. The Journal of Necrotos HP Defense and Resistance. Wearer's heals and turn meter increase effects applied are boosted by 15%. So anybody who has a heal or a turn meter increase or both is a potential target for this. And these are all defensive skills here. So it could be somebody like an Arbiter or an Astrid or an Apothecary. This could be a perfect book for Apothecary. All of those champions could also use speed, just like we were talking about with the Rod of Blasphemy. So you'll have other options down the road. Mask of Rage. The wearer receives 5% less damage from enemies under a provoke debuff, and then accuracy, defense, and HP. So this is for a provoker, preferably an AoE provoker. You get everything that you need to keep that champion alive and to land their provokes. Unholy Grail. The wearer deals 2% more damage if under any debuffs, and you can see there's 11% additional crit damage there in addition to some attack and HP. So any attack-based nuker would probably be the best option here. Maybe somebody in arena that you don't think you're always going first, like a go second arena nuker, or maybe just a PvE nuker who you know will be picking up some debuffs from the bosses. Golden Elixir is our first epic. Attack, accuracy, and HP. So the wearer is instantly healed by 10% when their HP drops below 50%. I think this could really go on almost anybody that you want to just keep alive, but probably somebody like a cleanser, maybe a debuffer, maybe an attack-based champion, or sorry, like a nuker who needs debuffs, maybe like an HP burner. This might be good for that kind of champion. So I'm not loving the Golden Elixir. I think the stats are maybe a little bit weird with this, but I think it could be very effective at keeping somebody alive. Demonic Effigy. Here's the first one that has speed. As you can see, it's only 6 speed, but wearer's turn meter increases by 10% whenever one of the allies dies. And again, remember that this gets boosted up to 20%. So this is pretty clearly a reviver or an arbiter, right? Who's also a reviver. So somebody who needs speed, but specifically needs to get back around to that revive. I could see this on someone like a Sill of the Drakes. That could also be really good. So other revivers would work. Or a cleanser reviver like an Elva or a Pythion, where the resistance would also help them in their role as a cleanser. Let's go up to Gilded Dragonstone. Here we have defense, resistance, and HP. Whereas defense increases by 1% each time they receive damage, stacks up to 10%. So they're just getting more defense every time they get attacked. This actually feels to me like a great relic for a solo champion. Defense, resistance, HP, those are the things you need to keep a champion alive. This could help someone like your Artak solo or Venom Mage, or it could be on a solo healer style like a Godseeker, a Neri, or an Apothecary, maybe, if you just need this champion to stay alive for cheese mechanics or solo stuff. Wand of Submission, where it has a 25% chance to reflect any hard CC, not slows, but anything else, and even sheep back onto the producer, the person who casts this. Now, speed and accuracy is really nice, so is HP. I expect to see a lot of Wands of Submission in the arena, because anything that can reduce the number of sheeps that you get hit with, that's a good thing in arena. So this is likely to be the most used place for this particular relic. I will say this, the extra speed, the extra accuracy, that makes me think of a go first debuffer, maybe someone who buff strips, is somebody who lands a debuff, because you don't necessarily need to prevent sheep or reflect sheep if you're not landing a debuff. So think about that, right? It could be useful for somebody to just go faster, but I think realistically you want somebody who lands debuffs here. Okay, Aspect of Siroth. This is defense, resistance, and accuracy. When the wearer receives fatal damage, reduces it by 50% of their turn meter and then fully reduces their turn meter. And again, this can go up to 100%. So the damage reduction is going to be based, I think, on the percentage of turn meter fill. So I don't think the speed is going to impact this. I just think it's the percentage of turn meter that you have. And then you're going to lose all of your turn meters. So it's kind of like a revive on death. It's kind of like a revive on death, except you don't die. I don't know why that's better than revive on death, except maybe that they can both be used. Like they might stack on each other kind of thing. So I don't know. This is a little bit of a weird one. Let me know what you think this would primarily be used for. All right, Hallowed Hilt is our first mythical. And again, you can see all of these go up to level 18, not 16 like the other gear. So that's just something to take note of. So again, more speed here, 24 speed, which is quite a lot. Whenever the wearer heals an ally with an active skill, has a 25% chance to place the Fervor buff on the ally for 1 turn. Okay, so this is the first one that brings one of the new buffs. The next, Valcardiac Heart, brings a Magma Shield. This one brings Fervor. So right now, I'm just going to take a moment to go over the 3 new buffs that Relics are bringing into the game. The first new buff is called a Magma Shield. Now, its information is included here under the other shields. You can see the new symbol for it. It's like a shield that's on fire with a little plus sign there or a cross. And down here it says, when damage is dealt to a Magma Shield, it is first applied to the shield as normal. So it acts like a normal shield. Then an equal amount of damage is also dealt back to the attacker. So it's like a reflect damage plus a shield all in one, but it's an equal amount of damage. So it's 100% of the damage gets reflected. That's a very strong new buff in the game. The other 2 are down here at the bottom of the list, and they are Fervor and Stormcall. Fervor increases damage inflicted by 10% and reduces damage received by 10%. I think this is going to be a really nice buff for any damage dealer, but specifically damage dealers who you're either struggling to keep alive or who are inherently tanky, who are going to get a lot of benefit out of getting that damage reduction, especially if they self-heal or, you know, are included in teams where they're really unkillable, or you're trying to make them unkillable. Not with an unkillable buff, but you know what I mean, like hard to kill. That's what I mean by unkillable. Then we have Stormcall here. Each Stormcall stack increases the damage dealt by a champion by 5%. At 5 stacks, this places a stun debuff on the target and removes all Stormcall stacks. You can have a maximum of 5. The stun can't be resisted, so that's kind of nice. It's like a stun set, but with a 100% chance. Right? This is a 100% chance of landing this stun. There are going to be times you don't want to land the stun. You want to keep the stacks where they are at 4, so you can just permanently get a 20% damage increase, because as soon as you get to 5, then you're going to attack, and then it's going to cleanse those Stormcall stacks off. There are other times where maybe you just build them up so fast it doesn't matter. You'll get these stacks really quickly and get a lot of damage. So 2 additional new ways to boost your damage, and then the Magma Shield is a 3rd way to get more damage out there as well. But this Stormcall is interesting because it's going to turn a champion who does not have a stun into a champion who does have a stun. So just be aware of that. All right, so back at this Hallowed Hilt here, whenever the wearer heals an ally with an active skill, has a 25% chance to place the Fervor buff on an ally for 1 turn. This goes up to 50%. So 50% of the time, you're going to get that extra damage and extra damage mitigation. Remember, 10% more damage, 10% less damage received. It's a pretty cool buff, still RNG based. It's a lot like Helm Smasher, kind of, right? Like, in a way, it acts as that 50-50 coin flip. I don't know if any of the gems, because I haven't really looked through the gems, will change the percentage effects here. So maybe there's a way to boost this, but, very strong. And again, this is got a lot of speed on it. It's got a lot of speed on it. So this is going to be seen in Arena, I think, quite a bit. Valcardiac Heart. Valcardiac? Yeah, I guess it has to be Valcardiac Heart. That's hard to say. Wearer places a 10% Magma Shield buff for 2 turns at the start of the battle. I don't know who that places it on. Is it just the wearer? Also places a buff on it. It must be just the wearer, not the team. Whenever they lose 25% of their HP in a single hit. And remember, you're reflecting 100% of that damage. You've got resistance, HP, and defense here. So this feels like it's going to go on either champions who bring their own shields, or champions who maybe you need to be really survivable here with that extra shield at the beginning. I don't know. It might be damage dealer, it might be, but you know, resistance, that makes me think cleanser. Plus HP and defense, that makes me think cleanser. So that's what I'm thinking. I think we're likely to see it in PvE and PvP. Again, if you have any ideas for how to use these relics or who to put them on, please put them in the comments below. All right, let's switch over to the Chimera group. Starting at the bottom with the rare Molten Death Bell. Accuracy, defense, and HP. Whenever turn meter increases, wearer's turn meter increases by 10% when applying any of those CCs to enemies and occurs once per turn. This potentially is problematic on Armand's, I think. We're going to see this on Armand's. He's going to get turn meter when he lands his stun. He's going to get turn meter when he lands his sheep. Yes, you might get that already, but this will give you more in case there aren't enough champions to give you back your extra turn. All right, Tempest Sanguinis. HP, accuracy, and defense. Wearer's turn meter reduction effects are boosted by 15%. So this doesn't have any additional speed on it, but it will improve the turn meter increase by up to 30%. So on a 30% turn meter fill, you're going to get 39% instead. I think this is additive to this 15, which gives you 30, and then the 30 is multiplicative on the turn meter fill. So that's decent, but without additional speed here, this particular relic might not end up getting as much use as it would otherwise, but could still be useful, especially if you're like in Classic Arena and you're struggling to speed tune. It could make speed tuning a little bit easier. Diadem of Undeath, defense, HP, and resistance. Wearer's defense increases by 1% for each ally under an ally protection buff placed by them. So clearly for ally protectors, I think this is a great relic. I actually really like this. I like that it's a rare because ally protectors are hard to keep alive, especially early in the game. You have a Taragi the Frog, or you have is it Jareg? Jareg, that's who I was thinking of. This is a relic that can help keep those champions alive. Gives you extra defense, gives you extra HP, gives you extra resist, and then also increases your defense by up to 20%, it looks like, or 24%, because this would be 5% plus the 1%, 6%. And if you have 4 other allies for, say, Clan Boss, then that's going to give you 24%. In Hydra, it would give you 30% additional defense, which is a very nice number. Malefic Talon, crit damage of 40%. So we know right away this is going to end up in Arena, but it could end up on any damage dealer in any location. Has HP and attack. I think the attack doesn't matter. I think this just goes on any damage dealer. Could be a defense-based damage dealer. The HP-based damage dealer would be really good. Wearer has a 20% chance to deal 10% more damage when attacking. So that's in addition to the 40% crit damage, right? And this is going to go up to, looks like 30, 40, 50% chance. A 50% chance to deal 10% more damage, but you're still getting the 40% crit damage. So just the 40% crit damage, I think, is going to make this one of the most desirable rare relics in the entire game. That's a huge bonus to any damage dealer. Arethi Coronet, this is attack, accuracy, and HP. Wearer's damage increases by 1% each time they place a debuff, stacks up to 30%. This is going to be great for any debuff-based damage dealer. So I'm thinking somebody like Ninja, right? More attack, more accuracy, a little bit more survivability, and then basically a ramp on top of his already normal passive ramp. So this could go on somebody like Ninja or any damage dealer who uses any kind of debuffs really to boost their damage. So it could be somebody who's like a hybrid poisoner or a hybrid HP burner or something like that. Okay, Orb of Transfixion. Here we have HP, accuracy, and speed. Wearer has a 10% chance to steal 1 random buff when attacking a target. This effect cannot be resisted, occurs once per skill. And this actually goes up to a 35% chance to steal a random buff when attacking a target. I think this is going to be a relic you use on champions with AoE A1s. Anybody who has an AoE A1 that needs to steal buffs, now you're hitting a whole wave, you're potentially removing counterattacks or block damages or unkillables or block debuffs. You can remove that from an entire wave. It's a 35% chance to steal, so you get the buff. It's not just a removal. and it can't be resisted. So just like a stun set or something like a provoke set, doesn't take any accuracy for this. So this could definitely go on a damage dealer. It does have accuracy, which is a little bit weird in the stats, but it also has speed, which is a nice stat that you need everywhere. So I think there's going to be a lot of flexibility with this one, and we're going to find some interesting ways to use it. Scroll of the Unseen, attack crit damage of 21%, which is interesting to me with speed, because I think we were looking at this Malefic Talent has 40%. That's why I think this is going to be so in demand. Now, this has speed and attack. This has attack and HP. This has more attack, almost 4 times the attack. Wearer's damage increases by 1% each time any other champion takes a turn when the wearer is under a Veil or Perfect Veil buff, stacks up to 30%. Damage bonus resets after the wearer takes a turn. So, one of the benefits that you get here with Scroll of the Unseen over the Malefic Talon is not just the speed from the stat here, but you get 2 gemstones. So that's one of the reasons why maybe you don't quite have as much crit damage here. I do think this could also be beneficial on anybody who brings their own Veil or Perfect Veil, or anybody that you pair up with like a Duchess or somebody who brings a Perfect Veil. This could be really good in Hydra, especially if you're using Veils to deal with the head of Torment, right? So if you're using a Rector Drath, if you're using a Duchess, if you're using a Tatura Rhymehide, then you could put this on your damage dealer. It's going to give him a lot more crit damage, plus that damage ramp for Hydra. So I think it's going to be a good relic. I just don't know, like, is Malefic Talon going to outshine it or not? We'll have to see. Hand of Uncreation, accuracy, resistance, and speed. Wearer reduces the chance of debuff application, buff removal, or steal effects, turn meter reduction effects, and increase skill cooldown effects by 10%. And you can see this goes up 20%. So speed, accuracy, and resist. This is going into arena on supports, right? Because it's going to reduce by 20% chance. That's just a flat reduction. It's going to reduce by 20% chance anybody basically doing anything negative at all to you. Plus, it gives you additional accuracy, resistance, and speed, all of which are really important support qualities, especially for arena. I could see, like, maybe if this, like, if it reduces the chance of debuff application, even if that ability can't be resisted, you know what I mean? Like an unresistible debuff. If this resists an unresistible debuff 20% of the time, then it's even going to be more valuable. So we'll have to see if that's how it works. I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen or not. All right, Gorecrescent here. Attack, crit damage, and speed. Wearer's next attack after killing an enemy deals 20% more damage. I think that's good. And again, we're probably going to see that in places like Arena, but specifically, we're going to see it on any champion who gains a turn when their skill kills a champion. There are a lot of champions in this game, damage dealers, who get an extra turn mechanic when they kill a target. And this is going to go specifically on those kinds of champions. And I don't think anybody else, because you're likely to use Scroll here or Malefic if you want to get more damage. The only other reason maybe to use this is because of that 3rd gemstone slot. So we'll have to see how impactful the gemstones are moving forward. Chrono Cube is the first mythical here from the Chimera group. HP, attack, and defense. Wearer has a 50% chance to take 2 turns in a row, but this actually goes up to 100% chance. If this effect activates, wearer skips the next turn, occurs only once per battle. So you would go 2 times in a row and then not go the next turn. You would have to, like, skip a turn and go 2 turns before you would get to go again. But this is a crazy ability. This might be the most broken relic we have seen so far. A 100% chance to take 2 turns in a row is bonkers, especially with mythical champions who already have an extra turn mechanic when they swap forms. So this could allow you in a mythical to use their best base form ability, get your extra turn, transform, still have an extra turn, and then use their best alternate form ability at 100% chance. Now, you're not getting any additional speed, no additional accuracy, no additional damage, really. Just survivability stats, but I think this passive is the best passive in all of the relics, by far. I think it's overwhelmingly strong in Arena. I think it'll become the new Arena meta. And I think champions that can utilize this, especially mythics who can utilize this, are going to be rising in terms of their like usability in the meta, I guess, their frequency of use. Okay, finally we have Stormcaller. Remember the Stormcall buff, right? Which is 5% extra damage per stack up to 5 stacks. And then at 5 stacks, it turns into a stun. So kind of like Thor's passive, like a mini Thor's passive. So this is 40% crit damage plus attack and speed, where it has a 20% chance of placing a Stormcall buff on themselves whenever they land a critical hit. And this goes up to 100% chance. 100% chance of placing Stormcall. So if we think about this, any champion that's using AoEs potentially is going to want to do this because you're going to want to stack up that Stormcall pretty quickly. And then when you use it, you hit a lot of targets with it. So this really will go on Thor. Like this is perfect for Thor and other champions that have a lot of AoEs. It's going to be a huge boost to wave clearing damage. So I think we're going to see a lot of PvE champions with Stormcaller. I do think we'll see some PvP champions with this as well. Remember, it does have 4 gemstones. That's going to be such value. I'm not sure, like, obviously, Chrono Cube is going to take very specific champions. I think Stormcaller is maybe a little bit more friendly to just regular damage dealers, regular nukers, as opposed to specifically mythicals or champions that get extra turn mechanics. And you can see it matches the Malefic Talon in terms of increase in damage. In fact, it's going to do more because of the increased attack. But again, I don't think it really matters if it's an attack-based nuker. Any nuker is going to benefit if they have some AoEs in their kit. Okay, that is it. We do have to wait for the Chimera to open before we can even begin to collect the resources we need to forge our relics and then put our relics on and play test them. It's going to be a little bit of time before we know what's best. But I would love to hear your feedback. Let me know if I missed anything. Maybe there's some obvious applications of these relics that I've missed, or maybe just creative ways you've thought about using them, or even questions that you have that we can playtest once we get our hands on some of these relics. Thanks so much for hanging out. I have been Colred. I will see you in another video soon.